I'm Dave Wiesdock, Sage of Creative Scaffolding.
And I'm Jen West, Professional Rebel of Delight.
And this is Shadow Casting. Hey Jen, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. It's a wonderful day, and I'm excited to be podcasting.
Me too. I just thought, you and I have already been working on our priority for at least a month now.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time of when this recording will be released, for a lot of people, they'll have been starting to work on their priorities as well. And I thought there's some great quotes out there about discipline and motivation, resilience, grit, trying to complete the priority or the task that we've set aside for ourselves for the year. And I really wanted to share this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's one of my favorite poets. I loved learning about transcendentalism and nature from him and from Henry David Thoreau. And I really feel that they are insightful because they're a little bit removed from the drudgery of day-to-day society. Thoreau went to Walden and Emerson also went out in nature. And I feel that sometimes their perspective and wisdom just has that je ne sais quoi.
Nice. Yeah. And I think this podcast will go live right in the new year. So yeah, if we've got something that's going to bring about priority or lift people up as they walk into the new year, let's do it.
Great. This quote is a little lengthier than our previous quote, so I'm going to read it slowly so everyone can hear it. And yeah, let's kick it off. Again, this is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "Write it on your heart that every day is the best day in the year. He is rich who owns the day, and no one owns the day who allows it to be invaded with fret and anxiety. Finish every day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely, with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense. This new day is too dear, with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on the yesterdays."
Wow. That's a deep and inspiring quote. I like it so much. Oh my God, we could make a full podcast out of this.
It's funny. I was thinking that exact thing as I was reading this. I'm like, man, what a great quote. For me, I really noticed the perspective of not allowing yourself to mentally waste energy on the yesterdays. For me and my type 1 thinking, rumination is not foreign to me. When a mistake happens, when something doesn't go perfect, my brain hones in on that, almost like zones in on it and nothing else. And what I find has worked for me is learning to, as the quote says, really just let that go. And it's funny for me because there isn't much for me to really add to that. It's simple. It's not easy, but it is kind of simple in the premise, right? If we allow our energy to be spent anxiously repeating something that happened in the past, we're allowing ourselves to be zapped or sapped of energy that we could be spending in the now, in the moment. I think a boon of this podcast or a benefit of this podcast is the focus on the present and staying present. There's gift in being present and in the moment. And if you are living in the past, you're sapping your ability to work on what you need to now. And taking this out of the ethereal language for a minute and bringing it down to earth a bit, where this really comes in is if, for example, in the new year, your goal is to go to the gym 3 days a week and you decide you're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you miss that Monday, it's really easy for our minds and our brains to go, all right, well, I missed this week. Maybe I'll try next week. But you still have the rest of this week left. Maybe you go Tuesday. Maybe you just pick it back up Wednesday. The idea is not for perfection with our goals. The idea is progress. The idea is to learn and to grow and to pick ourselves up when we fall, to not be encumbered by the anxiety of the mistakes we made, but to be inspired by the possibilities of what we can create in the now.
Yeah, it's not shaming ourselves over and over and over and hoping for a different result. It seems what most of the people we work with do. They make a mistake and then they go and beat themselves up for it, thinking if they beat themselves enough, they'll change. And that's the exact opposite of how we work as humans. We want to give ourselves every time we've done it well. My favorite part of this quote is the he is rich who owns the day, and no one owns the day who allows it to be invaded by fret and anxiety. I mean, that's just hugely powerful. It's so cool because every day you own, unless you let the mind go off on a tangent and invade all of the possibility.
Yeah.
It's a cool quote.
Yeah. And I'd love to add to that. That was one of my favorite lines in this quote as well. I just love this whole quote. So it's a little hard for me to be like, well, this specific line is just the secret sauce. But I do really like that line you picked out. And I also like the idea of not allowing yourself to be invaded by fret and anxiety. Here's the interesting thing. And we've talked about emotions a few times on this podcast. This is going to be my last point. I think awareness of an emotion is different than invasion of it. In other words, mistakes are inevitable. This quote isn't saying that you're not going to have mistakes or that mistakes are bad. In fact, I think it says the opposite. It says almost brace yourself for it. Prepare for the fact that there's going to be bumps along the way. And instead of allowing the bumps that happen along the way to become your focus, you allow it to become a point along the journey rather than like a distinct point in time. Maybe phrasing that a little better. It's not allowing the bumps in the road to overtake the overall goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I would use your own tool of win or learn. We're going to have those bumps in the road. And instead of fretting on how you did it wrong or that you're just dumb or other people do it better or whatever rolls through your mind when things go wrong, you can go, what can I learn from this and how can I do it better tomorrow? And I think that's really what Emerson's getting at. He's like, drop that as quickly as you can. The mistake, learn from it, then drop it, and then move on.
Yeah.
And learn from it. Don't forget about it and make the same mistake over and over and over. What can I change so that I'm more likely to be successful? If we're going New Year's resolution, which is when this podcast is going to be around, think about if you missed that day, what happened that made you miss that day? Maybe it got crazy. What can you do to change that? I know for me, my day gets packed. If I don't do that workout in the morning, it doesn't get done. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
By the time evening rolls around, I'm toast. And that's just me. Some people can do it at lunch and they find a way to make that time. If you can make that bubble of time whenever works best, do it. But mine's like, I got to do the bubble in the morning or I get distracted.
Yeah, I really like that example because I feel that is a really great illustration of what I was trying to get to, which is the bump in your day, the wrinkle in your day, so to speak, is that if you don't work out in the morning, it doesn't happen. And so the way that you plan around that bump or wrinkle is you work out in the morning. And I think that's kind of where the play comes in. Speaking to one of our past podcasts of, okay, when your day happens and you sleep in the morning because your phone alarm didn't go off and you're rushing to work and the day happens, the day's not over. You could maybe go for an extra walk that day, or maybe you take the stairs instead of the escalator, kind of those little pieces of advice that you always hear. This is where those applications can come in and be helpful for you. Do you allow the fret and anxiety of the fact that you overslept and missed your time to set the tone for the entire day? Or do you go, okay, this happened, it sucks, here's how I can pivot? And that doesn't mean that you're going to find an opportunity in that day, but you aren't letting it run you, then you are running that day. And that's where I feel like the power in this comes in.
Yeah. And sometimes if it's fitness related, just stretching, just stretching out your arms, moving your body a little bit. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute workout. If you miss it, just find a way to get in touch with your body that day.
Yeah. As you think about the quote today and reflect on it, also think about times coming up when you have picked your priority, or if you already know what your priority is, think about a wrinkle that is getting in the way of your priority or something that is causing your focus to shift, and look at it from a space of curiosity and win or learn. If you know that, for example, like Jen was sharing, that your day is going to be really jam-packed, where can you find time on the outliers of the day to make time for yourself? And or during the day, maybe you have the Apple Watch that reminds you to stand once every hour. Maybe that's where your goal becomes for that day since you missed the workout. Or maybe it's you're going to go for a walk during lunch, a 10-minute walk, 5-minute walk, 2-minute walk, something. This is where the fun comes in for me, because now it no longer becomes the game of I missed this exact goal I set myself to do, and so therefore it's shot. It becomes, okay, I missed this goal. I missed the bar. It's kind of like that quote, shoot for the moon, and if you miss the moon, at least you land upon the stars. If your moon is your priority, you have all those other stars you can land them on. Just pick one for the day and give yourself the grace and recognize, okay, tomorrow's a new day. Don't let the fret of what you missed today ruin it for tomorrow. Shoot for the moon again tomorrow and the day after that. Let us know what your favorite part of the quote is in the comments. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Be sure to share our podcast wherever you're listening from and subscribe. Give us a like and be sure to leave us a comment. We love hearing from our guests. And until next time,
See ya.